Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode with Rahks Foundation and Shit Sandwich. Today, we'll be talking about mental health and well-being in cancer patients. In the light of events of what has been happening around the world with cancer, the massive, devastating news about the death of uh, Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace. This is one of the things we've always been trying to talk about, and this is one of the most important messages we've been giving people, with cancer. It's one hell of a business, so we all have to raise awareness one way or the other to make sure we help people who have little idea about what cancer is, the effects of cancer, how badly it could affect someone, not just physically, but psychologically, mentally as well, and so on. So today we'll be talking about mental health and well-being in cancer patients. We would be Beth and I. Beth, who is a family member. She has been on more than two live shows with us today. Hello, Beth.
Hi.
I really don't want to disappoint. A lot of people have to also deal with the mental effect of this cancer. Most of them start as soon as they're diagnosed. Because
Yeah,
like we discussed the other day, when you tell someone you have cancer, a lot of people don't have the same mental strength to take it. So most people, end up suffering from depression, anxiety, and
mm.
all that. So, in your experience, how do you think cancer patients deal with, the diagnosis mentally?
I think for me it took a long while for that to kind of sink in, and I think even now, I've finished treatment and I'm in remission, I still don't quite believe it. There's still that kind of element of, I think partly not wanting to believe that it's true, and denial, and also it's a huge thing to get your head around. And I think particularly when you're young as well, it's not something that you ever expect that you have to get your head around. Nobody thinks that that's what they're going to be told. So I think for me, the mental side of it didn't really kick in until I'd finished treatment, and I was kind of told that I was in remission. That was when I really found that I had time to then kind of sit back and think about everything that had happened. Because before then, everything's kind of happening around you, and you're going from one appointment to the next appointment, and blood tests here, there, and everywhere. You don't, like, your feet don't touch the ground. You get that diagnosis, and it's your feet don't touch the ground. So it takes a long time, I think, for that to settle in. And then every single bit of news that you get takes a long while to settle in. And like you say, there are ongoing anxieties constantly, even in remission, like about the cancer coming back, and all of the side effects of the chemo are still a problem for a long time. And yeah, so it's a lot, but in my experience it took a long time.
Wow. Wow, because most of the patients that you read about, because you go on the internet and you read a lot of stories about people and how they had to deal with um, the news mentally, and
Mm,
you see that everyone handles it differently.
yeah,
There's people that once they get it, they just go straight into depression. There's so
mm,
much negative thoughts in their head, and they don't want to believe that something can actually be done. And there's other people that are able to take it, and the depression doesn't really set in until after, maybe the first treatment.
yeah, yeah.
When
It
they
takes
get,
a while generally, I think, for it to sink in. It's a lot to take in, isn't it? It's an awful
yeah,
lot.
yeah. So when they get when they go the first treatment and they're not getting any better, their hair's dropping, they're losing weight, they don't look as appealing as they feel they should, then they start
Yeah.
getting depressed. How do you think it's easy to come back from that type of depression?
No, I don't think it is. I don't think that any kind of depression is easy to come back from, is it? I mean, for me, with regards to cancer, it's something that I'm still very much working through. You know, I have counselling and um, support groups and things like that. It's very much something that I'm still working through. So I think no depression is easy to pull yourself out of. And I think, like you say, with the changes in appearance, losing your hair, that's like a massive milestone. And I think that then makes that diagnosis real. All of a sudden, you know,
It just dawns
that
on
was
you.
the one thing that I was scared about, was looking like a cancer patient.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest fear. And I was like, you know, I'm going to sleep in a wig and I'm never going to take my wig off. And, you know, because I just didn't want to have that look. But obviously it's inevitable if that's going to happen through your treatment, that you're going to lose your hair. Not obviously all cancer patients and not all treatments make your hair fall out, but if it's going to happen, that does have a big impact on you, and it's your self-confidence as well. It's a huge hit. And you know, like you say, you gain weight, you lose weight, your weight yo-yos all the way through treatment. That doesn't help. You know, you put on clothes and you don't feel like how you used to. It all has kind of a knock-on effect on your mental health.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's another group of people who express, you know, their emotions, should I say, you know, when they've been told, you know, they have cancer. Most
Mm-hmm.
people get very angry.
Mm,
They get
yeah.
angry at themselves. They get angry at everyone and everything around them. Is it sometimes you feel as a professional, you feel like, okay, yes, you have the right to get angry, but as a patient, do you think it is right for them to feel angry?
I think it's very easy to feel angry because you feel like there's the why me feeling. There's the feeling of your body's let you down or your body's tried to kill you. Do you know it? You
Yeah.
get quite a lot of those kind of feelings. Um, you know, if your needs aren't being met as a patient, obviously that's going to make you angry. Pain does funny things to people, doesn't it? Like, can make you angry, can make steroids, obviously, if you have part of that as your treatment, that's then added to that cocktail. And I think that, you know, um, for something like lymphoma, which goes undiagnosed for a long time, generally speaking, people aren't, it's not picked up very quickly. Um, there's an anger around that too. There's an anger around not being heard and not being listened to.
I had to do a little bit of reading on that because I wanted to
Yeah.
understand it not just from the professional point of view, but also from the patient's point of view. Because if you don't put yourself in their shoes, you might never really understand how
Mm.
um, that feeling of anger, you know, you might not really understand where it's coming from and where it's targeted towards. So, you know, it's okay. This is to every um, cancer patient out there. It's okay, you know, to feel. It's okay and very, very normal. Let me put it that way. It's okay and normal to
Yeah.
feel angry, but do not mistake that anger for guilt. Don't feel
Mm.
guilty
And
because yeah, because
yeah,
the
I
feelings
think
of anger are such that the patient will feel, you know, a particular way. They feel a particular type of
mm,
rage as a result of, you know, unanswered questions. There's so many things going in their head as patients. They're thinking, what have I done so bad that I have to go through this and the other person isn't going through it? Why um why do I have to was I doing something wrong? Was I not doing something right? You know, and all of that stuff. So most times even asking yourselves those questions might not necessarily mean is a bad thing, but
mm,
you being able to understand that even as a patient, you didn't cause this thing on yourself. You didn't bring it to yourself. It's okay for you to feel this way about it, but don't let it drain you totally. Do you understand what I mean? When it becomes when this feeling, starts having a detrimental effect on your health as a person, then it doesn't just become a problem for just you. It becomes a problem for people who live around you, people who love you, your physicians, your doctor, your oncologist, whoever's handling you. So I had to sit down to understand. Most people don't really get it. Most people don't really understand it, and most times it's bad enough that there's already a particular type of stigma around people with cancer. People don't necessarily find it easy to adjust to that condition
Mm.
when their family or their loved one or their friend is going through that phase. So um, the way they come about it might not necessarily be nice, or might not necessarily come out as them being helpful to the patient. Do you understand? So I try to, like, last week I had a conversation with another medical professional about cancer stigma, and we talked about these things, people coming out to help other people. You understand? People, family, and friends coming to show love. You might not feel up to it. You might feel there might be a certain day you wake up and you're not feeling very, very active, very strong, or you don't feel, you're just under the weather. There's people who will
Yeah,
feel like, oh yeah, I know she has cancer, but can't she just, no, she cannot just forget about the feeling and just go. Do you get what I mean? So you have to also
yeah,
understand that
yeah.
you must try to help them.
Yeah, and I think that the key thing is making the best of the good days. Do you know? Yes, cancer is sometimes a good excuse not to do something if you don't want to. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know, like we've all used the card, like it's there,
Yeah.
like, but don't use it to avoid things,
Mm-hmm.
as an avoidance. And, yeah, like you say, if you're feeling fatigued, if you're feeling rough, that's absolutely fine. And people should understand that. And the way of people understanding that is you being honest with them and being open with them,
Yeah.
and just saying, look, today actually really not up to it, either mentally or physically, whatever. Um, but make the most of the good days. When you get those good days in between treatments, I know it's difficult as well at the moment with COVID and everything, but make the most of it. Go and see your friends, spend time with your family, and have a nice meal together or whatever. Just make the most of the good days and be kind to yourself as well. Cut yourself some slack. I'm a kind of person that's like 100 mile an hour. I'd always want to be doing stuff, like I'd always be busy. And I used to have treatment, and obviously it wipes you out. And I would feel guilty about spending a day or two in bed. It would make me feel guilty because I know that is also impacting me physically and mentally, staying in bed. But actually, I needed to. And even some days now, there are days where I need to just spend the day in bed because I'm too fatigued. Um, and I think it's learning to listen to your body and just be kind to yourself.
Yeah. 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 So, most times we've talked about depression. Most times we know patients suffer a lot of depression and anxiety.
Hmm.
Now, these two
Yeah,
sometimes go hand in hand whenever
yeah,
the mental health of a patient is under, um, scrutiny or under any kind of investigation. A lot of patients tend to suffer from feeling not just anger, depression, there's also fear of death. There is just
yeah,
fear of disfigurement, like we spoke about, the fear of disability, infertility, dependency,
yeah.
and so on. And one very major thing, which obviously is what people face in this part of the world, financial hardship.
Mm.
How do you feel people can come over that?
So obviously, financial hardship is a really difficult one, isn't it? I mean, it's not, I'm lucky enough to not have had to be faced with, you know, having to pay medical bills.
Yeah.
But obviously I couldn't work during treatment. I was in hospital for most of my treatment, so I wasn't able to work. So, you know, luckily as well, we've got a benefit system. So I applied for the grants and things that I was entitled to. Take the strain off a little bit.
I'm so sorry. You went out for like 2 seconds. The internet went off.
Oh,
Your voice back now.
sorry.
Yeah, go on, go on.
So yes, obviously I haven't had to pay for medical care, so I'm lucky in that respect. We've got the NHS, but I couldn't work sometimes. So it's just finding out what you're entitled to. So obviously we've got a benefit system, which we're lucky to have, but there are also charities that supply grants to cancer patients. There's charities that supply like care parcels. There's, you know, it's finding out what's available to you. And I think this is one thing when you get diagnosed is you're bombarded with information and leaflets, and you know, and you can't take it all in. So what you really need is somebody, a family member or a friend that you trust, just to go, here you go, do you mind just looking through these for me? Kind of thing. Because that makes it easier, you know, like you've already got enough going on in your head, trying to get your head around everything. And you know, as a young adult, you might have a young family to support as well. Like that's an added stress, isn't it? And it's just sometimes you just need somebody to kind of help you out with the logistical things and finding out what there is out there, what's available to you, what you're entitled to. And for anyone in the UK, you can get Macmillan like financial advisors, and they sit down and do an assessment with you. So I'm sure, I don't know whether only other charities do stuff like that as well. But that's always something worth looking into. And then you've got someone who can come and say, you know, you're entitled to X, Y, and Z, and they will even complete the forms with you. You know, so you don't have to do it on your own, which is a great service.
Wow. Wow. See, that is a system put in place for that. You know, in other parts of
Yeah,
the world, like Nigeria and other countries where, you know, there's no um, healthcare amenities put in place for people who have this, they have to um, financially cater for themselves. So they have to pay for
mm,
these things. They have to. So in most cases where they're not financially able to do that. Like you said, there's organizations, charity organizations, there's a lot of NGOs around that, you know, take these people, send them, either pay their bills or send them abroad, you know, to get better health
okay,
care. Yeah, and all of that. Wow,
yeah,
wow, that's great. That's actually great, and that's something that in the nearest future we honestly and sincerely would love to urge, you know, people in these positions to do, you know, so that
yeah,
we can close that bridge between the rich being sick and getting better and the poor being sick and dying. You know, that's a very,
yeah,
very big,
yeah,
that's a very big task that most of us have actually decided to pursue. So we hope, you know, that we would be able to achieve that. Yeah. So now coping with emotions, how would you
mm.
how would you advise, or what exactly would you say to people who have this mental health problem with cancer? How would you advise them, you know, to cope with their emotions, and that would lead to, you know, getting better results at the end of the day?
Yeah. So I think it's hard to know what you feel 1 minute to the next, you know. And there's situations where you feel like you should feel happy and you don't, you know, end of treatment, you feel like you should be over the moon and celebrating, but there's something inside you that you don't quite feel that. It's constantly a little whirlwind, and I think the main thing to remember is like there is no wrong or right way, and it is actually absolutely okay not to be okay sometimes. And then other days you do just need to kind of give yourself that little push and dust yourself down and kind of get on with it. But it is okay some days to just have a day, shut up, do you know what I mean? Just shut yourself away, get your head together and kind of go for that. But, you know, if you are depressed and you feel like you're not managing it, then obviously speak to your doctor, speak to your oncologist, your hematologist, your medical team, your GP. Everyone's going to completely understand, and people are going to expect you to be anxious, and people are going to expect you to be low in mood. They're not going to expect you to be on cloud nine. You know, that's not the reality of it, is it? So, and I think also, you know, family and friends generally don't expect you, you know, they expect it as well. So it, like you say, it kind of goes hand in hand with that diagnosis, is that depression and that anxiety, and the fearfulness. But yeah, I think just take one day at a time, one step at a time. Every day you might feel a different emotion, and that's absolutely fine. Like there is no wrong or right way, but just be kind to yourself. And don't be too hard on yourself either, is a big thing. You know, like allow yourself time to heal. Allow yourself that time to just have to yourself if you need it, do you know? And then if your first step is just walking out of your house and standing outside for 5 minutes and then you come back in, that's absolutely okay, do you know? And you build it up gradually, like baby steps.
Yeah, that's something. That's good. That's good. Always one of the thing, because you're not just dealing with how, you know, you feel physically, always search for the positive, if you get what I mean. You know, I feel like there's always already, you know, when you talk about cancer, there is so much negativity around it. So as a patient, once you get diagnosed, instead of sitting there and thinking, yeah, I know I'm going to die, you know, just search for the positive, you know, make yourself believe that something can actually be done, something positive can actually come out of this, and all of that stuff, you know, express yourself in the manner you feel suits you at that point in time, because that's very important. Being able to express, normally, not everyone has the ability to express themselves fluently. Not everyone has the ability to tell you exactly how they feel in words. Do you understand? So being able to express yourself as a patient, tell someone how you feel, what you're going through, could actually go a long way, you know, where treatment or rehabilitation is concerned. You know, you can choose when to say it or when not to say it. If you don't feel like talking to someone, you don't necessarily have to talk to that person. If you don't feel like you want to express or say something to someone about what you feel or what you're going through, it's fine. It's fine, honestly. You don't necessarily
Completely. And my tip for that would be write things down, because the other thing with chemo is chemo brain. You forget things, you know, and when you've got so much other stuff to worry about, it's easy to forget stuff. So if you feel like actually I'm feeling like this and I'm concerned, or there's something worrying me that I need to ask somebody, write it down and then you can refer back to it.
Exactly. That's another good point. That's another good point. A lot of people don't really. I feel like when you're going through it at that point, you don't really think of it that way. And this is where support network comes in. Do you understand? So when you're able to, you know, write down whatever you want to say, or however you feel, you know, to someone, and the person has the opportunity or the privilege of reading it, you know, it could actually help you yourself as a patient and not just the other person. Do you understand? The idea of this communication is to make the other person understand how you feel, and know what you're going through. Now, when you do that, you realize that the countenance of that person towards you, the patient, might change. Do you understand? The person might come to terms with so many things that they never really could understand, and everything, could get better, from then on. So look for the things you enjoy. Do the things you enjoy. If you
Yeah,
enjoy taking walks, if you enjoy eating, baking, cooking, whatever, doing a lot of makeup, and all of that stuff,
yeah,
you can,
make the
yeah,
best of those good days. And also
yeah,
the other thing about writing feelings down is it can be quite cathartic. It can be almost like a therapy, like writing a blog or even just writing it in a notebook. And even if you rip it all up afterwards, like it can be quite therapeutic in a way. And also there is an amazing online community for cancer patients. It's like this little
yes,
secret community that unless you're involved in cancer, you never know about, but
you
it's
never know
amazing. On
exactly.
Instagram, on Facebook, there's so many people that, some of them have got secondary cancers, so it's being managed by chemo rather than cured, and
Yeah.
their outlook can really impact how you feel, and they're generally quite good at having a positive outlook. So get involved, follow a few people, and that has really kind of helped me, I think, not to feel so alone with it as well, and also helped me to get things in perspective a bit.
Yeah, that's why it's important. Even though you're doing things you like, make sure it's something that you can control personally, something that you know that when I do this, I'm in total control, 100% control. So I can do it however I like, I can do it however it makes me, however pleased I can be with it. Do you understand? Because there's people that, maybe they have the zeal to do it, but when they go in and they're seeing a lot of people doing other things even better, and they feel like, what, I can actually do this, but it's just, that can actually have a toll on them as well. So if you're in absolute
Yeah,
control of that thing or whatever activity it is, you see that the impact you have on yourself and on that activity would even be more productive than when you're just doing it for the sake of, oh, I don't want to be at home, or I just feel like doing something for the sake of it.
yeah.
Do you understand what I'm
But
trying to
it's also
say?
important while you're like looking at other people, it's important not to compare yourself to others as
Yourself to
well.
them. Exactly.
That's kind of the key. Like, yes, you can use them as maybe like an example, but and you can learn things from them, but you don't need to completely mirror them. Like, everyone's completely different. Everyone
Different.
deals with things in completely different ways, physically, mentally, treat everyone's on different treatments, everyone's got different cancers. Like, it's, don't compare yourself, but there is a really good support network out there. But it is, like I say, a little hidden community that you don't know about
Yeah,
unless.
exactly. It's most times when you watch and you see how these support networks help people, little children, old people, young people, you just feel there's this joy you feel that you know that these people are being included in whatever's going on, and that is actually very important, including people with these problems so that they don't feel left out in any way, could also lead to a
Yeah,
decrease in depression and other mental problems that they could encounter. Find ways to help yourself relax as well.
yeah,
That is another key thing. Whenever you
yeah,
do the best you can, ability to
yeah.
sleep. Oh my God, the ability
Oh,
to
sleep is
sleep
such a big one.
is
It's something
something.
that I personally really struggled with all the way through treatment. I don't think I slept for about 6 months just
Wow.
because I just couldn't, like, steroids and stress and all the rest of it. Like, it was just too much. And I think, God, when you finally get to have some sleep. Sleep can change you into a completely different person, can't it? Like a good night's sleep can make the world of difference. So yeah, it's good.
Sleep, rest excessively well. Even as someone who has maybe you haven't got cancer or you're now cancer free, it is important when you hydrate. These are my two very important words: hydrate and sleep. When you
Yeah,
hydrate, just sleep. You have no
yeah,
idea how important resting is. Honestly speaking, even as a healthy person, you must rest. When you have cancer, you do the best you can. You know, you go out for walks or you join like cooking shows, you do online interviews, or you have a vlog where you make videos and talk to people about how you feel. When you're done with all of that and you have that satisfaction, that happiness that you have made an impact, because you know sometimes it's not just doing it for recognition or doing it because you want to make people feel like, oh yeah, you're doing something. Sometimes there's a deep satisfaction you get when you know that you're meeting ends meet this way. You know that you're impacting the best you can or the little you can in the lives of others. When you feel that satisfaction, please sleep. Please rest. Sit down, stretch the feet. No, seriously, because there's this gastroenterologist in New York, and we happened to talk about 2 days ago, and it was like, you know what? Apart from hydrating, he says, Farida, if I don't sleep, I can't function.
yeah,
As soon as he said that,
exactly.
I told him, I said, you need to see the grin on my face right now because I understand exactly what you mean. If you can't sleep, if you don't sleep, you can't function. You can't do what you're meant to do right. So it is
Mm.
important, you know, when you're resting, you're not just resting your body, you're resting your mind, you're resting your brain, you know, you're just,
Yeah,
everything just goes into that mode.
and that's when your body has time to heal, isn't it, as well?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Muscles and everything, it has time to repair and to
Yeah.
heal. So
I
it, yeah,
know my mom is watching this and she's going, sleep, because you sleep 13 hours every day, sleep. Yeah, so, oh my God. Okay, guys, I know today is Digital Detox Day in the UK, so I'm going to try not to keep Beth here for so long.
no,
You
you're
know,
fine, you're fine.
so, yeah, just to recap, we have people coming in. Thank you guys so much for logging in today. Amy's on as well. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Today we've just talked about mental health and well-being in cancer patients. We've just highlighted a um, few points that usually is not really focused on, and I feel mental health as a body on its own is not really focused on as much in hospital than the physical and emotional
Yeah,
and psychological effect of cancer, most especially. When a cancer
yeah,
patient or when a patient is told they have cancer, automatically they're going through a phase of depression. They need people to help them out of that phase. Doctors, oncologists sometimes don't necessarily focus on their mental health because there's so much priority placed on curing the cancer, make sure the patient is cured of this cancer, make sure you get the tumor, make sure you do this right, make sure you do that. But there's very little priority placed on mental health. So I believe, you know, we should not just talk, but we can also help raise awareness, you know, physically, and make people understand that when you feel a certain way, when you have cancer, most times it's okay, it's very normal to feel that way, you know, but don't let it get the best of you. You get what I mean? So we've
yeah.
had so many discussions. Beth, Thank you again for doing this.
Oh no,
You've
you're so,
really
so
helped.
welcome. Anytime at all.
You've really
Anytime.
helped
Like,
so many people, understand the other parts,
yeah.
the other side, to what cancer
Yeah.
patients suffer from. Like the
Yeah,
conversation
and I
I
think,
had.
like you say, that it's not looked at as a whole. There's not a holistic approach. It's very much like, even in the UK, it's very much like we're just curing you of cancer, and then once treatment's finished, it's all over to you, and you've got to kind of fix it all. Everyone
Yeah.
jump ship, as such. So yes, it's such an important thing, and it is completely okay to not be okay and just take one day at a time.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Because after our last conversation, with the physical and psychological effect, I had a conversation with someone, with a colleague last week, and she pointed out a couple of things you said, where this whole stigma and everything is concerned. How do people around you, deal with it, help you cope with it? How can you, like, where we talked about, you having friends and they just didn't know how to talk about it. We talked about that at length, with cancer patients in general, and how people
Yeah,
don't necessarily, find a way to come forward, to talk to their family or their friends who have cancer. So, like I said, these things that what we're doing, you know, we're just shedding a little bit of light on what cancer patients go through. When you're sitting on the other side, you never really get to understand or get to
you don't.
think like
No,
that. You don't. All you're seeing is,
no.
oh,
You don't.
oh, this person has
You see
cancer.
the
Oh,
problem that's given to you, you know, a broken leg or whatever, but you don't see the trauma that caused that broken leg, do you know?
you can only
And what
feel
that person,
you can only feel so much pity for the person, but if you don't sit down and walk in that person's shoes, you would never ever know or understand what they're going through, you know. Um,
mm,
so I'm thinking we could have another session like this, maybe next
yeah,
week,
yeah, yeah,
because there's a
that's
lot of
fine.
people who are really going through this digital detox thing, so we could have another
Yeah,
session next week. And what I'd like us to do is, let's try and get other people's views on these things, so that we can be able
yeah,
to share and not just analyze and speak based on what we think is right, but also use other people's experiences to shed so much light
mhm,
for people to understand, and also get it in their head that, what, having cancer is not just a thing of, oh yeah, she has cancer, she's going in for chemotherapy. There's a lot of things that entails, and most especially mental health.
yeah,
There should, because
yeah,
I feel like there is very, what, even when you do research on these things, you find out that there's very little um, research studies on patients that have cancer and mental illness. There's not much priority placed on their mental state of mind, where
yeah,
when they have cancer. And it's I feel like it's very important, and not just they shouldn't leave the job for just psychologists or psychiatrists alone. An oncologist could
mm,
also play an important role in helping these patients.
definitely. And I think, if as a professional you're approachable, that's half the battle, isn't it? Because then
Yeah,
somebody might feel like they can open up to you or let your guard down or whatever. Whereas if you're kind of like a closed book and it's all very business-like and in and out the door, haven't really got time to have a conversation, then people aren't going to feel like they can sit down and talk to you about how they feel.
yeah, yeah. So this is
Yeah,
something that really needs a lot of focus, and increase in understanding.
definitely, definitely. And like I've said before, I think now that I've been through it, through something which was traumatic, and you know, I had pain, and I had experienced so many things that I hadn't experienced before. When I go back to work, my approach is going to be so different, so
Mhm.
different to how I was before.
Before, exactly, because now you know what exactly they go through, you know exactly what's happening, and all of that.
Yeah,
So
just having a
that
little bit more of an insight, isn't it? And a little bit more of an understanding, I think.
exactly.
But you know, a lot of oncologists and hematologists haven't had cancer, have they? So how would they know?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
that's the thing. So
Oh. So thank you guys. I know this is a very short um session today because I had no idea today was Mental Health Day. So
honestly, it's no problem. I didn't think until like half an hour ago. I was like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be on Instagram today.
yeah,
But it's fine, I won't tell anybody.
we definitely have to do this again. We would so that
Yeah,
we can reach as much audience as possible. That's the target, anyways, and that's the whole
yeah,
point of doing this. You know, so guys, thank you so much for logging in today.
yeah.
This was
Thank
amazing.
you.
Short. I am so sorry it was really short, but we're definitely coming back next week with something even better. Thank you so much,
Yes,
Ben.
thank
Thank you so much
you.
for doing this. I'm so
No
grateful,
problem.
as always. And say
No
hello to your
problem at all.
mom, your brother,
Yes,
Amy.
yeah, and you and yours too, or your family.
I will definitely. I will. Thank you so much and have a lovely
All
day.
right.
All right,
You too,
then.
take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.